constructed shapes of agricultural tools gets abstracted. Lamenting on the loss of the use of agricultural tools due to mechanization, Para monumentalizes them on his canvases as conversing tools. Their shapes talk to one another and they talk to us, to the audience, and are imprinted upon his monotone canvases. For our discussion today, we are very honored to have with us Shri Dilip Ranade, an artist known for his whimsical works that explore the intersection of reality and illusion. With a background in fine arts from Sir J.J. School of Arts, Ranade's career has spanned various disciplines, including museology and taxidermy. Thank you for being here today, sir. We are also joined by Nitin Kulkarni, who is a researcher and an experienced art and design curator. Currently, he is pursuing his PhD in contemplative pedagogy in art education. He is a critic as well as a poet. Please welcome our esteemed speakers and the artist.
Abstraction is the core of visual thinking. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I think that was a very interesting, because when we were discussing, one of the important areas where I have dwelt upon, and being an educator, visual thinking is a dear subject to me. And every time when we look at this particular term, visual and thinking, most of the time we feel there is a dichotomy in this particular term itself. Because when we are looking at a visual, in absolute sense, thinking should stop. And when we are starting to think about anything through our own mind process or by looking at something, the seeing stops. Visual process may stop. So basically, when we say visual thinking, I think we can come up with some new terminologies. But I feel when we say visual thinking, it is about interpretations, it is about seeking meanings out of whatever we see. So the moment we have started seeing one object, the first thing which comes to our mind is the identity of the object. And if we cannot identify the object, then our brain starts to seek answer, very quick answer. And that process we cannot stop even as an artist. This has been one of the important problems which I used to face in J.J. School of Arts when I was learning visual art. So whenever you are identified with the object, you will not be able to really represent the object because you have to go away from the identification. In fact, you should go away from thinking in order to do so-called visual thinking. So that's the reason why visual thinking is something like contemplation. I feel as if it is more like a contemplation. And as far as abstract painting is concerned, again, my take on abstract art is very different here. I don't look at a work of art which is displayed in a gallery as an object. I don't classify that as an abstract art, because even in so-called representational art, if we look at the process of creation, the process of creation starts from maybe rubbing pencil on a paper or putting blobs of paint on canvas, till the time that blob of paint is taking certain area, and when that area is viewed, when your mind is trying to establish certain connection between whatever you have seen earlier from your memory and whatever emotions are emerging in your mind at that point of time, and then you start modulation. So you in a way, painting is a process of modulation which begins from abstraction. So if you stop in between, it can be called as a abstract art in a conventional sense. But even if you can recognize a certain kind of objects in that particular work of art, the process always has been of abstraction. So the people who understand these nuances, I think they have started visual thinking.
Thank you so much. Para, would you like to comment?
Back same key. Let me clarify my stand in this particular subject. And abstract painting is a genre. I'm going to look at abstract painting or abstract art as one of the forms of art, one of the genres of art, because I practice myself art and I have my own viewpoint, so which could be subjective. My paintings could be called figurative abstract. You see, there are very specific figures. And I also expect that it should transcend beyond what is depicted on the canvas. And therefore, I call it figurative abstract. Now, abstraction has been always there. You can say from the time of prehistoric time. But this genre, abstract art, has developed later, because I received a list of questions, and one particular question is very relevant in so-called, popularly known as modern art. That is technology, use of technology in art. Now, there is a little difference in technique and technology. Technique is way of doing something. Technology is a system, is a method, or it is a tool. And particularly in recent times, I think there has been a lot of conflict that some people say that particular artist is using technology. So what does it exactly mean? Now let's say that even from the ancient times, there has been constant evolution, even in technique. In the sense, as history describes, that earlier art was part of architecture, that is murals. Then what came into existence is mobile painting, easel painting. Even in that, fresco, panel painting, canvas painting, this was all technique and partly technological evolution. In the sense, mediums became more convenient to handle. But generally, why there is objection on technology, that there is a drastic shift. Technique, skill, and human decision is very important. But in technology, someone uses computer for making art. Or today, AI is being used in creating art. So what is understood is that human decisions and human skill is absent in technology. And it has become more conceptual. Your ability to conceive a design, an idea, that has become more important, and technology is doing the rest of the work. Like it provides you whatever images you want. Many times I feel artists, they copy images from what is available online. So this has been a major thing, because it's very gradually started around mid-19th century. First shock artists had was because of camera. So many artists who were doing sort of commercial portraits or commission work, which was absolutely essential till 19th century. So when camera came into existence, many artists had no job. But as technology developed, human visual imagination grew in different directions. The best example is Impressionism, Expressionism, Post-Expressionism, and all that. And today, like I would say, Joseph Beuys or Anselm Kiefer, Gerard Richter, they are thinking on totally different level. So abstraction basically, I feel that after, this is my very personal opinion, that as technology developed, artists turned towards spiritualism more than depicting external reality. Many artists unknowingly were painting what they saw. And that was the common image between the viewer and the artist. But Impressionism, they thought that what is called optical synthesis, that was a then very new theory developed. So that fragmentation started, where you see brushstrokes very prominently. Similarly, later, the most well-known artists like Van Gogh, I would say, to a very great extent, Van Gogh is an abstract painter because his brushwork, his impasto, his internal excitement is conveyed, anxiety, conveyed through those very loaded brushwork. So, though he painted Starry Night or cypress tree and cornfields, somewhere that brush marks were very important. And according to me, finally, it ended up with Jackson Pollock, where he called it gestural art. So, what is abstract artist concern? That you expect participation from the viewer much more than provide him information. But again, if I talk about my work, where there are specific objects, specific images, I want them to become metaphor so that people start interpreting work on their own. So basically, be it abstract art or figurative art, so long participation of the audience is there, I think you are getting through. You are communicating well. So that's what is more important. But now, fortunately, we have here a lot of painting by Rajendra Patil. Now, what I will say that their metaphors are like shades, brightness of color, then I would say texture or brush mark and spatial interrelationship. How images are organized in that space, that becomes their basic matter. And viewer is expected to see interproportion, interrelations of the images. Now very clearly we can see that there are images which appear like some object, and if you ask 10 people to describe their object, I would say that knife-like object, and as she rightly introduced that tools, agricultural tool, maybe there is a closer association with his forefathers' profession, I hope. Yeah. So everyone tries to look at it differently. Similarly, there is verticality, horizontal, and there is a kind of suggested, implied movement in his work. So, besides visual thinking, how images, shapes are organized on a canvas, that becomes vital. The problem in the sense which, as I say, that visual thinking, that what artist resolves is that he is experiencing the world with all his five senses. And I feel what is called sixth sense, that is intuition, he is extracting essence from that and he's putting it in that form. So basically, abstract art is meant, I'm talking about essence of life and not trying to describe the painting that there is a house and there is a mountain behind and all that. So this is, I think, the basic issue. And as artists have turned to a spiritualism, that inner feeling than external reality, and which requires, very restraintful observation, that is visual thinking, and further, to put it on the canvas, visual imagination.
Thank you so much, sir. That was very insightful. Para, coming back to technology, you ventured into creating digital art that was displayed in a 2019 show. Can you elaborate or talk about the impact that has come between you creating digital art and your very luminous canvases?
Yeah, regarding the new materials and mediums. Okay. Thank you, Ranade sir, for speaking about my work and what I mean to express, and you get a proper interpretation. So I would like to put more before coming to the modern techniques and all that. But as sir described our ancient culture from the Indus, Egyptian, even Sumeria, Assyria, Bulgaria, many of the previous or tradition of the making art, it was ahead, more ahead than science and technology. Earlier, the life was very simple and basic, and it was based on the creativity and involvement of the human being in the very beginning of all cultures. But there was a science which are the supporting to the ethnical and the proper way of life, which is we call organic kind of things were happening in the traditional way. And even today, the 50,000 years before the Tepe, there is one site, and there was a quite developing making pictorial sculptures and murals and other things. Even I very much fascinated by Egyptian and Assyrian murals and sculptures of love and piety kind of the things, and I try to depict the pictography kind of the forms I try to depict in my work. And even though I come from the agriculture background, but India is agriculture base. Everybody is agriculturist, I think so, but I've gone through the real experiences in my most kind of small village, and we are a very small town of the six brothers village kind of thing. So I was when I was 6-year-old to 25 years. So it was the registering age of the every child or every human being to understand what practically happening around the field and surrounded area. So it's that retains for a long time is all the memories, and these are things are coming when I came to art school. I studied the different art schools, Reza in Ruya College, even JVS College. So later on, it was just to understand what is the urban life and what is the aesthetic of how to decorate the life and all that. But all things come from your roots, and which are very important to the interplay, the bridge between the urban and rural. So in my work, things are amalgamation of the both experiences, and I see very closely when I was staying in the worldly areas for 7 years. So in the worker people kind of shawls and all that. So I seen many of the things from 80s and all that. So many things closely I try to bring in my work of art. And as concerned with the abstraction, because we observe in the JJ school. I taught in JJ for 35 years. And then I studied earlier also. So I think the many of the, when movements start, in the cases Panikar, Palsikar, before that, Mohan Samant and all that, and even specifically Parvesar, Walsh Habla, many Bombay people contributed in abstract because they were fascinated by the British movement, that movement, what German movement for the Bauhaus and all that. Even later on, post modern expressionist, that is called a color field artist, very much influenced with Bombay artists as well. So things gradually are changing after the progressive movement and all that. So all I'm talking, just giving the graph of how Indian art turned into the modern form. But it was the time in JJ, I initiated in the abstraction first in Bombay, in India, I think so. So that generation gave us a lot of things. And still our generation, 60s, age of 60, 75 people are working. And all over India, many of the people take the thought from Bombay and JJ school. And later some Bhopal and some Delhi people are also doing very good in abstraction on that. So abstract is a very random term. There is no specific art movement actually. It is a common contour thinking of the abstractions. Previously there was, as Sir said, the Fauvists and later Cubist people, activities were called abstracts later on. And Gerards and all that, they were started. And even though Robert Delaunay, Saloni Delaunay and all that began, and Malevics. And many of the American artists also took it forward, even the Ukrainian artists, the Arshal Gorky. And the many, given the different terminology, like the abstract, gestural abstract, constructive abstract, and everything. And so slowly things are coming here, and people are taking it the Indian way. Because our Indian abstraction looking more of spiritual, either more of painful, not painful, but the seriousness of the Indian life pattern reflect in the Indian abstraction. So, and there is as Sir said, it's a sixth sense and all that, because we are the practice base of the philosophy and way of life in India is very rigid and very tough, and people are carrying that culture. Understand? So these things are coming. That's why I'm just calling the introspection, which is Antarved, Marathi, in Sanskrit, that we call the Antarved, the Atla Ved. So that way I try to put the conversation, as Madam suggested me to have something in academy, to put some insight and all that. So when you were talking about my digital and all that, because I had been 35 years in teaching, so I was updating myself with the students and all that. So traditionally I am very good at making oil painting and all that. Even acrylic I started in 90s. Even watercolor and all that. All practice we do common, but suddenly when I was traveling to Bombay, to Borivali and to Mira Road somewhere, so in between I found the tool and some software. So it was interesting, but I was not using the tool and that, because I was putting my sense through the mediums. All mediums, this is clear. I never been a ceramic department. I just went to the ones in department and just got the clay, the small things, and it came out well. The material things, technology is not concerned. What is your insight and how you bring too close to your what on the surface, which should belong to the art, that is very important. So technology and tool, but it should not look like a digital. Even if you see my digital, it look like a similar painting, but the method of making is different. And everyone has to be adopt that new technology, because science, industrial revolution started in 16th century, and the culture is begun from the 10,000 years before. So culture is more than geography, I can say it. That's why we should believe on that and come here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So this, my next question is solely addressed to Nitin, sir. Sir, you wrote, striking the equilibrium of opposites is the true meaning of life. How does Para's art suggest this?
Yeah, I think digged up from the previous exhibition. I think Jahangir Art Gallery, when he was showing a big exhibition, that time I had the chance to write about his art. And I have written on abstract art earlier also, and approach has been spiritual, like understanding the spiritual aspect, as I said, about artists. And it is not necessary that all spiritual artists will be abstract artists, but there is a thread of spirituality in every artist. So when you look at Parra's paintings, you are always dealing with on two levels. One level is that you're looking at a painting as a whole, which is abstract. You recognize that in the first moment itself, and these shapes which are appearing. And now these shapes are not appearing the way they appear in most of the art, which is some shapes will be given more importance. The hierarchy will be there, and there will be some suggestion that you start looking at the painting from here, and then your eyes move in a certain direction, mostly the circular direction. But here, Parra doesn't allow you to focus on any one form. There are so many forms which are floating in the canvas, and some of the forms are recognizable, like the chips of the stones, or knives, or some tools. So you are recollecting some recognizable objects from your own memory. So there is this duality always created in that. And this kind of duality is there in your life also, especially the life of artists. They are always trying to balance between the worldly affairs, that you have to live your life, earn money, etc., and giving importance to your spiritual life, which is your art. So there are these two metaphors which I had seen that time, and I think today also I feel the same. In fact, it is becoming more and more refined. I saw that refinement, the equilibrium is getting closer, I think.
May I continue on the same? Abstract art is based on the belief that there is an innate ability to respond to visual world that is purely forms, color, and space. So, the person who is not even trained, he basically responds to such visuals. So it's based on that. Similarly, audience is supposed to know certain canons, conventions, certain norms. Like the best example is of Jackson Pollock, that someone might say that this looks like, spilled color. But when he knows the concept of gesture, then he would see body movement, action painting of Jackson Pollock. So though, everyone has that ability to look at the nature around purely as some object and hollows. Still further, because it relates with his sculpture. But if the audience knows concepts evolved in the art, it clarifies better. And in the process of day-to-day life, this very instinctive quality is lost. Because dealing in life, he learns to call an object with some name. In fact, I like to use one illustration. A small kid, very small child, when first time it looks at an elephant, it looks at that some object, doesn't know the word hatti or elephant, some huge volume. So that's his very natural response. But as he acquires knowledge of language, he thinks that he can put it in words and get lost. As if he has communicated his message to the audience, because he requires basically for day-to-day communication. That visual perception, acuteness of perception is lost gradually, and also ability to communicate. I have worked with some children, and when I saw their artworks, and when I talked to them, you see, one child had drawn a house with a window, and from the window pane, he had drawn radiating lines. So I didn't understand. So I asked him, what is that? He said, when there is a glass in the window, that sun reflection, that radiation which disturbs your eyes. I was so surprised, and that boy must be 10, 12-year old. Now there I realized that he has noted his visual experience. And not only he's trying to draw something which is descriptive. So this is where what Picasso said, to remain a child is very important. So to look at visual world as visual, that becomes very important. Now similarly, there are terracottas here. Now in terracottas, personally I feel that it works very differently. In the sense, we have association with terracotta which goes back to Indus Valley or even much more earlier. So that material is that old. Second thing, that there are two processes in sculpture. One is sculpting and one is additive process. When you are working with clay, you are shaping clay, you are adding and subtracting also. But what I see in is terracotta, that plasticity of material is used very well. And basically what he has created, that solids and hollows. That relationship is important in his work, even in some of this metal work. So that's how this abstract should be functioning. But as I said, that in the process of your mundane communication, you lose that sight of looking at visuals purely. That's the basis of abstract art. But one thing is common, that viewers' participation and viewers' interpretation. Now, even in these metal work, there are shapes of various kinds, and besides hollows and solids. So your eye movement moves with the shape. So this is a kind of participation on the part of viewer. When you look at object like this, maybe your eye movement is in the direction of the sculpture. And that's the essence of his works, maybe painting or sculpture.
So, would you like to comment?
Being child, So basically this has been our experience that, we have been listening to this quote, and in education, I think a lot of people, even also educator, he also must have used this, that how you can become child again. So we all know that we cannot become child again. So we try to become child again conceptually. So our intellect starts working on our entire behavior, and we sometimes mimic some craziness out of curiosity or out of being a child. And I think that helps any artist and it helps mostly abstract artists, because abstract art, I think, is more related to impulse, more related to the spontaneity, more related to the equilibrium of mind and body. All those kind of concepts are there. And experiencing that is very difficult. When you're actually in the studio in front of the canvas, you tend to always intellectualize the actions. The moment the action is taken, it is intellectualized and it is being interpreted by yourself also. But how to stop that process and be what you are, or accept what is happening in front of you. But this is a very difficult task, because at another end, you want to establish as an artist also. So even having a certain kind of a thread of connectivity, continuity, you cannot abruptly do anything. So I think this aspect of being a child can be achieved through certain practices, and a lot of research in the world over is happening on contemplative practices, and there is a possibility when you actually achieve a certain kind of a non-conceptual awareness, which I've been studying on, that there is a thing called non-conceptual awareness. Right now I'm aware about the space, I'm aware that I'm talking in a panel discussion, I'm aware about people are sitting and listening to me. Now this is a conceptual awareness. Whereas non-conceptual awareness will be, I'll be able to just feel something as a void or as a object or as a something, which is not embedded within the concept. I think such kind of revelations, when artists have, they try to pick those revelations. They try to hold those revelations and try to depict those revelations. I think we are seeing that kind of a example over here in the gallery, that with certain paintings you connect better, because you are connecting to your own experience of that kind, and then you connect and you stop there for a while and you want to absorb that particular vibration or that kind of a sensitivity in you also. So I'm very sure when the artist has such kind of experiences, the viewer also can have those experiences, and this is the beauty of art.
All are done. I think we're done. Would the audience like to ask any questions?
2 points.
Sure, definitely. Take your time, sir.
Because, I thought I should not take too long and deprive them of what they have thought about to share with you. I have 2 points. There is generally in earlier stage one notion that I imagine and I draw. But it's not always true, because doodling helps a lot. So where you are visually attentive, you are mindlessly, aimlessly doodling, and something strikes you where your imagination is activated. And that's how you see some artwork, painting, drawing, or something. So what I feel, that when maybe as an individual, psychologically, when you are very conducive to produce art, your conscious level and pre-conscious level are simultaneously working. In the sense, maybe it has happened in my case, that I'm reading something, I'm watching cinema, but somewhere pre-conscious is considered to be below threshold of the consciousness. It's below it, it's not subconscious. So you are active on 2 levels constantly, conscious to pre-conscious and all. So I imagine my painting, my own work, while watching a film or while reading a story, or even just blindly looking at something, as if I'm engaged in some activity, but somewhere the other mind is trying to imagine my own work. Similarly, second idea is that auto-suggestion. When suppose artist keeps his canvas on the easel, he has not gone into trance, but he suggests himself that you have to go into trance. That's, you achieve a level or you go on to a level where your outer consciousness has to be minimized. That's how you will be purely able to concentrate, focus on your canvas, and you will allow your pre-conscious, subconscious mind to work and see something. This analogy was very often used by Barve, Prabhakar Barve. I think everyone is familiar with his work. He said that I used to concentrate on blank canvas and allow mental activity to take charge of that canvas. And whatever appeared on the canvas, I would start with that and then construct the whole painting. So there is, I feel, an auto-suggestion that now you have to cut off yourself from the world around, of which you are constantly conscious. Who is looking at me, who is must be saying something to me, or who is talking about my painting and all that. So this is, in a way, you suggest yourself, you suggest your mind to take over charge, and then you are into so-called trance, where you are not consciously doing everything. So these two things I thought very important in the context that you had decided the topic, that, introspection. Yeah. So mind, I think this is my experience, because I have tried, when I was drawing, I thought that let me lose control over myself. And I do drawings with a kind of mechanical pen. So I said, let me lose control over hand. But what happened on the paper was not satisfactory. So I said, I have to find equilibrium between conscious and subconscious. So I have to allow things to happen, but keep a check. Some kind of control over line, because as Paul Klee said, that my line goes for a walk. What he means is, I think, the similar thing.
Now you mentioned Barve. In the recent talk, I was talking about his line. His line is, in Marathi we say, Sanskar Virahit line. आणि त्याच्यामध्ये असाच त्यांचा उद्देश होता की प्युरिटी आणायची. प्युरिटी कशी येईल? How does purity come within my action? So he has to minimize the effect of medium, whatever medium is trying to do on its own, when certain medium has its own character, and we tend to, as an artist, we tend to expand upon that particular character and try to create something about that character itself. So how to really minimize that and allow your own subconscious to, to come through till the final result. Yeah. So there is this aspect of simulation. What Ranade sir was talking about. I was reading one paper, very recent times. They have come up with this own new theory about how abstract artists, they simulate certain kind of experience. And that simulation actually, in order to bring themselves to that simulative kind of experience, they have to work a lot. Work a lot in the sense they have to work on themselves as an individual and keep noticing your own processes. I think you must be, you will agree with me on this, that you have to be very observant on your own actions, because a lot of it is about what kind of action you are doing on the surface. If it is not directed by your being, not directed by your subconscious, then it starts mimicking. It starts mimicking certain known images from the past, and they start coming into your work of art. So this theory of simulation is also very, very important to look at when we are looking at abstraction. And viewers also can experience that simulation. When we are actually tuned with the work of art, we also can understand how the painter must have painted this particular image. And that's where, viewer and artist can connect very well.
Okay, great. Would you like to say anything else?
I thank all of you for being patient and attentive. And I also request that, because I see audience, there are a lot of artists, art students, and maybe the art lovers. So, as an artist has to sort of train himself into this kind of meditation in a way, audience responsibility is to know what are the concerns of the artist. Audience cannot apply parameters of, let's say, neorealist or photorealist, or who may be working in op art, to an abstract painter, because op art is another extreme. As one of the authors, Werner Spies, has written a very nice article. He says, in op art, human's physiology, working of the eyes merely used. There is no content and there is no form. Form and content are together. So to understand abstract art, there are many counterpoints like neorealism, or recently I sort of thought about one artist that is called Chuck Close. Chuck Close started with very, very detailed kind of huge faces. And today he has arrived at a point where he's between optical synthesis and optical analysis. So that's very good counterpoint to understand what is abstract. So I feel that even understanding counterpoints of any particular subject theme helps you to look at what you want to understand.
And basically another point, especially for the students who are sitting here, maybe this is more important for them. Synesthesia is one of the concepts in psychology and neurology, that two senses can be connected, or in fact there could be a relation between multiple senses, and you can convert one sense into the other sense. And there could be a very intuitive process for that. So that's the reason why, by looking at certain forms, you can listen to a sound maybe, or listening to a sound you can think about some visual image. So there's one interesting experiment you can look at, V.S. Ramachandran's experiment, Kiki and Boba. If you have seen that experiment, where he's taking two shapes and showing it randomly to people. One shape is little pointed and one shape is little rounded. So he's asking them to, which shape looks like Kiki and which shape looks like Booba. So definitely, Kiki is the one which is sharp, and Boba is the one which is round. So there are these automatic responses which are embedded within us as human beings, and artist is trying to evoke those basic senses. So how do we understand abstract art? This could be another very interesting concept to look at.
Thank you so much for being here. This is very insightful. Any questions from the audience? We have three great people sitting here, so do not lose this chance.
I don't have a question. I have an observation, which actually I made to Nitin. I happened to come in at around 5:05, and I was alone with Para. And I went around, and I had no clue. I had not seen Para's exhibition before. But when Nitin walked in, I made a comment, and which I think is very relevant. I walked in and I told Nitin, I am reminded of Barve, and particularly a painting of Barve, which is the safety pin. So that was apparently the first one he tried with computer, and he didn't like it, and he redid that again. I've seen that painting, and finally he painted with Anne. Yeah. So in that painting, one safety pin has been interpreted in many different ways, and no two are alike. Similarly, there are auzar or implements here. No two paintings are alike. They are completely different from each other, which is what I liked. Because it is very difficult, because he is playing only with 3 or 4 forms, and within that to find this, that again is reminded me of music, because in a rag, so there are say 7 swaras and maybe one is varjya, but the way you can create infinite variations of that is what I was reminded. So in that sense, synesthesia, or it reminded me of music. That is all.
I think we have missed out this analogy with music. In fact, Kandinsky thought that he wanted to elevate this painting to the level of music where there is only sur and lay. So, there is no descriptive kind of images in work, but he is talking about pure color, pure gesture, and movement. So, I think good that you mentioned music, and I always feel that music is a very good discipline to understand abstract painting. Because, even not a connoisseur or not a knowledgeable person, he responds to sounds, and of course, lay, he's living with it. That's his heart. So he knows when he goes out of lay, he knows is not in proper condition. So I think it's so much within you that it makes you, it becomes very easy to understand abstract art, I believe.